high school principal, Mark Bracey, and our secondary school nurse, Julie Brown, is here with us tonight. And also on our panel is Assistant Superintendent Chris Gawary, Business Administrator Tim Burns, and of course me, Charlene Dean, Superintendent of Schools. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. At the end of our forum, we will answer questions from you using the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We'll do our best to answer your questions. If there are questions we are unable to get to tonight, we will respond through Parent Square tomorrow. We will be recording this 5-day reopening forum Zoom meeting tonight. As you know, we've been preparing for a move to full in-person instruction should the opportunity occur. This past Friday afternoon, we received the interim guidance for in-person instruction at pre-K to grade 12 schools during the COVID-19 public health emergency document from the New York State Department of Public Health that aligns with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC recommendations, and provides schools with specific requirements to fully reopen to in-person instruction. The good news is that the distancing requirement has been decreased from 6 feet to 3 feet. The decreased distance comes with the caveat that students must be seated in rows facing in the same direction. This poses a problem for us with classrooms configured with tables. However, safety is our priority, so we are currently working on this issue. Another important factor that we need to use in our decision-making is due to evidence that the transmission risk is lower among elementary students compared to middle and high school students. Because of this, the CDC recommends that physical distancing requirements differ based on grade level and based on community transmission. The CDC COVID-19 data tracker rates are categorized as low, moderate, substantial, and high. Ontario County currently has a high rate of transmission. This is in line with what we saw at Red Jacket after spring break. Due to out-of-state travel and family transmission, we have had 6 secondary students and 2 elementary school students test positive for COVID-19. Although we haven't seen any additional positive cases at Red Jacket in the past 5 days, Ontario County currently has a high community transmission and positivity rate. The COVID-19 data tracker rates are based on community transmission, which is defined as the total new cases per 100,000 persons in the past 7 days, and the percentage of positive tests in the past 7 days. The Department of Health specifically states in counties with high risk of transmission, elementary schools can maintain physical distancing of at least 3 feet between students and classrooms, and cohorting is recommended when possible. However, in the middle and high schools, 3 feet of distance between students and classrooms is recommended only when schools can use cohorting. When schools cannot maintain cohorting, middle and high schools must maintain physical distancing of at least 6 feet between students and classrooms. Due to staffing and space, we have been able to cohort core classes at the middle level. However, we cannot maintain cohorting at the middle and/or high school level for all student courses. It is important to also point out that the CDC no longer recommends physical barriers for mitigation where physical distancing cannot be maintained. As a result, we will not be able to move our secondary, which is grades 6 through 12, students to full in-person until Ontario County's risk of transmission changes away from high. If the risk of transmission does not move away from high by May 3rd, it is unlikely we will make a change to full in-person learning at the secondary level. If it moves off of high within the next week or two, we anticipate moving to in full person learning with 100% online learning as an option. At the elementary level, which includes UPK through grade 5, we expect to move to full in-person instruction 5 days per week, beginning on Monday, April 26th. We need to continue providing online learning for the few online learners we have and for those students who are quarantined, isolated, or ill. This means that we will continue with our current hybrid model of instruction at all levels through next week, and we will continue to work on plans for full in-person learning. However, we expect to move to full in-person learning at the elementary level only beginning on Monday, April 26th. Full in-person for middle and high school students will be delayed until the county transmission rate moves off of high. As I've said previously, I think we've done an excellent job at Red Jacket by being proactive, following our distancing, masking, hand hygiene, and distancing protocols, and providing our staff with access to COVID-19 vaccines. Over 80% of our entire staff has been vaccinated, and we continue to provide our staff and community with vaccine clinic links. I'm confident that with all of us working together, we can continue to keep our school safe as we move to full in-person instruction. It takes all of us working together. In preparation for moving to full in-person instruction, we provided multiple surveys to parents and guardians and staff. Out of 310 respondents, approximately 86% of our parents and guardians said they want full in-person instruction 5 days per week. 8% said they would like to stay with the hybrid model, and 6% said they preferred 100% virtual. Out of 86 staff respondents, approximately 64% said they want in-person instruction 5 days a week. 36% said they prefer the hybrid model. And one staff person said they prefer 100% virtual. 92% of our staff said that they feel safe with the safety protocols that we have in place. After surveying staff, Mr. McCarthy and I held a Zoom meeting with the elementary school staff. Mr. Bracey and I Zoomed with the high school staff, and Mrs. Hall held an in-person meeting with the middle school staff so that we could address their questions, share thoughts and ideas. Chris Gueri and I also met with the bus drivers at the bus garage, and we surveyed students at the middle and high school levels as well. We had 34 students respond with an equal split between middle and high school students. From the parent and guardian and student surveys, we formulated questions and answers which we would like to share tonight. So again, please use the Q&A feature for any questions that you may have, and we will do our best to address any questions at the end. So Karen, I would like to pose this first question for you. Will you continue to do temperature checks, and will the daily COVID screener continue to be used?
Yes, we will continue to do temperature checks with students upon arrival. Students and staff should also continue to use the daily house screener in Parent Square every school day.
Okay, Sarah and Julie, this question is for you. I'm concerned about kids not being able to distance in hallways and restrooms.
Okay, from the elementary standpoint, UPK through 3rd grade all have individual bathrooms in their classrooms. 4th and 5th students check in with the elementary office before using the shared bathroom. Staff let the students know if the bathroom is occupied or available.
So and at the secondary level, the high school and middle school bathrooms are a place where the students really need to self-monitor, and they're old enough to be able to do that themselves. The staff members are going to be able to help us reinforce the fact that, you know, only one person can leave the classroom at a time. Just to give some perspective, Ontario County, in doing the contact tracing, they really won't place somebody under mandatory quarantine unless they've been in really close contact, unmasked with somebody that's had COVID-19 for about 15 minutes or so is what we're looking at right now. So that's just a little bit of perspective as to, you know, how long you would have to be with somebody before they would consider placing you under quarantine. But and quarantining will not occur if for staff and high school students, we are getting, you know, a fair amount of our sophomores, juniors, and seniors that are receiving the vaccine 16 and older. So if they're fully vaccinated with either 2 doses of the Pfizer, Moderna, or the Johnson & Johnson 1 shot, and it's been 2 weeks out, it's the expectation that those students and staff members won't have to quarantine. And so as long as, students aren't spending 15 minutes in the bathroom unmasked, this really shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question for all three of our principals. Will there be enough time between classes to disinfect?
So I'll talk quickly about the elementary school. One of the nice things at the elementary school is that we are cohorted. The kids stay with their teacher all day. So there's not a need for disinfecting between classes like at a middle or high school level. The only exception at the elementary level is if they use shared materials. Special and lunch schedules have been designed to provide staff time to disinfect between groups that use those spaces though.
In the middle school, I met with a building council recently and we discussed a modified release or hallway travel plan to allow for grade level groups to travel between rooms one at a time so that teachers have time to clean prior to their arrival. This will be discussed with faculty when we move fully to in-person.
At the high school level, we do have a modified bell schedule to increase time for cleaning. We have not made the decision if we need to use that. And it would have to be a secondary 6 through 12 change because we share staff and we share spaces. Once students are fully back in person, we will all have to train and retrain those students for expectations like distancing, proper masking, hand washing, and hand sanitizing. Time between classes is currently 3 minutes, and whether we need to increase that time or not, masking will allow for safe travel through the hallways. As Mrs. Brown said earlier, at our school, Ontario County won't place someone under mandatory quarantine unless they've been exposed, unmasked, and in close proximity for a period of longer than 15 minutes with somebody with potential COVID-19.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Hall, Karen, this is for you. There's two questions here. Are kids going to wear masks still? Enforcing the proper use of mask wearing was a concern raised. How has this been addressed? And the second question is, will kids need to wear masks outside? How about outside in PE class?
Thank you. So students and staff are still required to wear masks at all times unless eating a meal during lunch or during a structured mask break. Students have been great about this, and we've addressed individual situations where ill-fitting masks are worn or if students struggle to keep their masks covered in their nose and mouth by replacing or modifying them. During PE or anytime outside, masks are worn unless students are given structured mask breaks that allow for a minimum of at least 6 feet of distance. PE distancing has been reduced from 12 feet, which was the prior requirement.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, this is for you. I'm worried about my child not getting a mask break. How can this be addressed?
Okay, so the new guidance put forth by New York State Department of Health requires all students who sit forward facing the classroom. In order to give our students the proper mask breaks, public health suggested to stagger the masking breaks, so only half of the students are unmasked at one time for up to 2 minutes while at their desks. This ensures that we are able to maintain the proper 6 feet of distance when unmasked. For example, having other row of students unmasked for their break, once they put their mask back on, then the other rows can remove their mask for their break.
Okay, thank you. I'll answer this next question. The question is, will classroom surfaces be disinfected each day? Will daily cleaning continue to occur as well? There will be no changing in the cleaning and disinfecting procedures. Disinfecting will occur between different groups of students, including shared supplies. Cleaning is done nightly by our cleaners. Our cleaners complete the daily cleaning log that is publicly posted outside of every classroom, office, and space. Our staff have been given training on disinfecting, and they all have the supplies that they need. And if they don't, they know where to get them or who to contact. Our daytime cleaners will continue to disinfect high-touch surfaces during the day as they have done all year. And the next question is there easy access to hand sanitizer in school? We installed numerous hand sanitizers throughout each building. They're located at each entrance, in the school library, at our library entrances, outside of the nurses' offices, and several other areas throughout the school where a sink and soap is not necessarily readily available. Every classroom has been provided with hand sanitizer as well, and we have plenty of supplies. Jeff, this next question is for you. How are we measuring 3 feet or 6 feet between students? Jeff, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you. Nurse Sarah Huber spoke with Department of Health yesterday afternoon and confirmed that there's been no change to how we do the measurement. And the measurement is from the center of a seat to the adjacent seat, so next to it or behind it. And so in the elementary school, that will be at 3 feet, hopefully as of the 26th for students.
Okay, thank you. Mark, this next question is for you. How will distancing look during lunch?
During lunches or breakfast, we'll have to continue to require 6 feet of distance between students because they're unmasked while they're eating. We will continue to use the cafeteria, designated classrooms, as well as expand into other areas to achieve this. At the secondary level, our larger spaces such as the gymnasium and the auditorium foyer may be used.
Okay, thank you. Chris, this question is for you. How will distancing look on buses?
So we are working to place students in each seat as has been allowed all year. Students who have siblings or live in the same household are sharing seats and will continue to do that. Some students may have a new bus assignment based on numbers shared in our recent transportation survey that we provided to parents and guardians, and students will continue to wear masks at all times on buses.
Thank you. Karen, this question's for you. Will students use lockers?
For the remainder of this school year, the middle and high school students will continue to carry their supplies with them and only use their lockers for outerwear at the beginning and end of the day if necessary. This will reduce congestion in the hallways.
Thank you. Mark, how will PE distance with more students? And what about band and chorus?
The spaces specifically for PE, band, and chorus, obviously the gymnasium or the auditorium, they're assigned and they're large enough to accommodate our students because the distance requirement has moved from 12 feet to 6 feet. Specifically in PE classes, the nice weather is here and hopefully they're using the outdoors as much as possible, but the gym spaces are large enough to accommodate the students as well because of that reduction to 6 feet of distancing. In PE classes, they will be masked as well.
Okay. Jeff, will teachers be teaching 6 feet away from their students?
Try to remember to unmute this time. We always encourage people to distance as much as they can because we know that it helps limit the spread. However, it's not always possible. So it states in the updated guidance that responsible parties must ensure that appropriate physical distancing is maintained between individuals while in school facilities and on school grounds, inclusive of students, faculty, and staff, unless safety or core activity. And they give examples such as instruction, moving equipment, using an elevator, traveling in common areas requires a shorter distance. It also states that the department recognizes that certain scenarios may prevent physical distancing from occurring, such as essential classroom instruction, medical care, or student and comfort care. So again, we're always going to maximize the room that we have in our spaces, but there is times when we do have to close that distance between people.
Thank you. I'll take this next question. Is the ventilation up to date? Will windows be able to be opened? MERV 13 filters for our univents and rooftop units have been installed. This pleated type of filter uses an electrostatic charge to remove very fine particles from the air, as well as potential allergens like mold, bacteria, and even particles that carry viruses. We use the master library management system to automatically schedule filter changes, as well as to schedule other preventative maintenance needs prior to their due date. We often have comments made about cold air coming through our vents in school. The air exchange vents are specifically designed to bring outside air into all of our spaces to keep the interior air quality healthier. And yes, windows can be open. Karen, will there be more outside opportunities if the weather cooperates?
Absolutely. Teachers are always welcome to take their classes outside if they're able to do so. We've seen quite a bit of this over the last few weeks, and it's been really a nice opportunity.
Thank you. Sarah and Julie, what is the procedure if a student or staff tests positive? And how about contact tracing? And will randomized COVID testing be done?
So we are in constant communication with Ontario County Public Health. In fact, Sarah and I were both on the phone with them individually right before we came on this Zoom meeting. So when a staff member or a student tests positive, generally what happens is Ontario County will provide us the time where the student or staff member is deemed to be infectious. And then on our end, we go through and assist them with gathering the information so we can assist them in doing the contact tracing. This includes talking to the attendance officer to see, you know, who exactly was in school that day, who the person would have been around. Teacher staff interviews. We watch footage from common areas like the cafeteria, the gym, buses to and from school. We then present all of this information to public health, and then public health will make the final determination based on how long they were near somebody and for how long, whether or not that they need to quarantine. They will stay under quarantine until public health, has deemed that their quarantine has been fulfilled, and then they will release them off quarantine. In terms of random testing, there's been no plan right now by Ontario County to do random testing in schools. However, if this does change, everyone in the health offices, we've all been trained in order to administer COVID tests at RJ if it comes to that.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, this is for you. My child has health issues. Can they continue to learn from home?
Yes, absolutely. They can still continue to learn from home. However, with us going back to 5 days a week, the model may shift more towards an asynchronous teaching model, as it's going to be really difficult to manage live lessons with the additional students in the classroom. Could become very difficult for the teachers. So it will, but it'll be more of an asynchronous model.
Okay, thank you. Karen, my child has been remote. Can they transition to hybrid before moving to full in-person?
If we're able to go to full in-person, the hybrid model will not exist anymore. Parents will have to choose fully remote or fully in-person. However, in the meantime, before opening fully, students may transition to hybrid. Just let your principal know as soon as possible if you're interested in this option. We have students coming back every single day into the hybrid model, and they've been very successful.
Okay, thank you. Mark, if I choose to keep my child 100% remote, what will my child's day look like?
Charlene, obviously teachers are required to provide all students with daily instruction. They may continue to provide this instruction synchronously, asynchronously, or a mix depending on the grade level and depending on the subject area. They'll obviously communicate with students and parents as the best how to provide that daily instruction for 100% remote students. But at the middle and high school levels, 9th period from 2:30 to 3:15, teachers will be available to meet with their virtual students and online learners. Mornings at the elementary school between 8:05 and 9 a.m. Those times are available for elementary level teachers to meet with their 100% remote learners. If and when the decision is made at the secondary level, parents will need to commit to full in-person or 100% virtual for the remainder of the school year because we cannot keep going back and forth.
Okay, thank you. So this question is for myself. Why are we looking to make a change to full in-person right now? We're trying to address significant learning loss due to less in-person instruction for our students that has been caused by COVID-19 since last March. So far this year, our students have lost 27 in-person learning days due to Wednesdays. For a solid year, the bulk of our students have had only 2 days of in-person instruction per week. Everyone has done an amazing job. I couldn't be more proud, but our students have lost a tremendous amount of learning. We believe that having staff and students return to as much normalcy as possible by at least eliminating the 2 separate hybrid groups and focusing on in-person learners with some virtual students with a 5-day per week instructional schedule, it will help to alleviate some of the stress, give our students more social connections, help create more of an academic routine, give students more in-person access to our counselors and teachers, and increase their chances of success as we wrap up the school year. We believe that this is what is best for our students and what our students need academically, and it better supports their mental health and well-being. Sarah and Julie, a few secondary students have expressed concern about not feeling safe in school if we move to full in-person. What can you tell them about spread in schools, and what advice can you give to help keep everyone safe? Why is it different at the elementary level?
So all of the data has been showing us that COVID is not spreading in schools. It's being spread in small gatherings outside of school, where things like proper masking and social distancing aren't really taking place. To date, we have not had one positive case of COVID that was passed student to student while in school. This is due in part to our diligent staffing, screening of staff and students, before they come into the building, social distancing, proper masking. I know Mrs. Huber and I have talked numerous times about this, as we both live in the community and have children that attend Red Jacket, that we feel that the school is the absolute safest place for our kids to be. In terms of the elementary school, it's just kind of a different entity from the middle and high school, and the fact that their environments are a little more controlled. There's not this constant switching back and forth of classes every 43 minutes. For the most part, they're together, same kids, same classroom, and there's not a lot of, moving around in their day. They're with the same people. Middle school, high school, it's different because they're changing classes and they're with different people all the time. So.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to thank you and Sarah for all of your hard work, spending weekends helping with contact tracing and keeping us informed and being so proactive and providing excellent guidance and keeping everybody safe. So thank you. Mark, if the secondary schools are able to return in coming weeks to in-person, full in-person, what happens if our county moves back into the high level of community transmission classification?
It's a great question. If we are able to bring back middle and high schoolers back 5 days a week and the transmission rate moves back to a high level, all students would need to shift to 100% remote learning based on the most recent New York State Department of Health requirements. This would remain in effect until the Ontario County transmission rate lowers to an acceptable level.
Right, so we're going to have to really continue to work closely with our county and monitor that, because we really don't want to be in a situation where our kids are having to, be in person and then go to online. While that's not an issue at the elementary level at all, even at a high transmission, we're able to remain in person with the elementary students. So thank you. That was our last question from the surveys that we received. So I'm going to begin reading the questions posted in the Q&A. And so far we have 2. Jeff, this first one is for you. There are some classes that do switch at grades 3 through 5. Will they have enough time and space to disinfect and distance properly?
The simple answer is yes. Just like our middle and high school teachers have become very adept in passing time to be able to get things cleaned in between groups, my crew has also become very adept at doing that as well. We actually have a little more flexibility with our schedule because we're not driven by a bell schedule. So our teachers have some control over their schedule. So they'll be able to have kids step out into the hallway, disinfect properly, and then have the kids enter the room. So that should not be an issue.
And we do in our hallways have 6-foot distancing markers for students that teachers can teach them how to use to stand.
And it's something we'll monitor, Charlene. We've honestly even had some teachers that are now, they're moving and the kids are staying. So it's something that we can definitely work with at the elementary level. So I don't have a concern with it.
Okay, thank you. And Chris, this next question is for you. When will we know the new bus transportation schedule?
So we've been working on all the schedules right now, merging our Monday, Tuesday cohort with Thursday, Friday. And as you would expect, we have some overages with that. So we'll actually be meeting on Friday to try to come up with a plan and decide whether We'll move students onto some of our less crowded buses if we need to add routes. What we envision doing is only making calls to families where the bus will change. So if you don't hear from us and you don't get a Parent Square message or a phone call, your student will continue to ride the same bus that they have all year. We will only reach out to parents where there's going to be a change for the bus, and that'll happen hopefully early next week.
Okay, thank you. So those are the only questions that we had, but before we end this evening, I would like to remind our community members that the school budget vote is scheduled for May 18th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the auditorium foyer. However, they can contact Kim Brown in our business office for absentee ballots for those who prefer not to come to the school to vote. We're asking voters to vote on a 0% tax levy increase. Yes, you heard that correctly. Please come out and vote on a 0% tax levy increase on May 18th. There are 3 Board of Education seats open, and so far we have 3 candidates running for the board. And on May 18th, we're also asking voters to vote on expending funds from the bus reserve to purchase 2 full-size buses, 1 mini wheelchair bus, and 1 minibus. The state provides Red Jacket with 90% back on bus purchases, and the remaining funds are in our bus reserve. So please remind people to come out and vote on May 18th for our 0% tax levy increase. And on behalf of myself and our panelists this evening, thank you all for joining us, and have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.